Okay, our next episode is called Too Short a Season. It's episode number 16, and it originally aired on February 8th, 1988, and it was written by Michael McKellian and D.C. Fontana, and the story was by Michael McKellian and directed by Rob Bowman. And with this particular episode, the Enterprise is welcoming aboard Admiral Mark Jameson. He's an 85-year-old man and his wife, Anne, and he is specifically called aboard the Enterprise to help with a hostage situation on Mordan 4. And the leader on Mordan 4 is Carnus. And Carnus believes that Mark Jameson is the only man who can help with this particular situation. Now that's interesting because Jameson is 85 years old and he's suffering from Iverson's disease. And Carnus himself even had doubts whether Jameson was still alive, but nevertheless he is there. And as the Enterprise is making its way to Mordan 4, everyone notices that Jameson is suddenly getting much younger, and he's getting much livelier, and it seems like that he is starting to recover from Iverson's disease, even though that particular disease is considered incurable. Now, at the same time, he is also in a lot of pain, and this comes out more and more as the episode goes along. So Picard eventually demands some answers from Jameson, and Jameson actually admits that he's taking a de-aging drug to help him with these negotiations. And this is actually a shock to his wife as well, so she's not happy about this because it is threatening to his life that he's doing this, and that's why he's in so much pain. And Picard actually learns that Jameson is also hiding something else. Picard was originally assuming that Jameson was requested by Carnus because he was the man who negotiated a similar type situation about 45 years ago, and Carnus knew him from that. But what the actual story was it wasn't because Jameson had these masterful negotiation tactics. Actually, Carnus was asking Jameson for weapons to help him fight his enemies. And what Jameson did was he gave Carnus those weapons, but in order to, in his own mind, satisfy the Prime Directive, he actually gave Carnus's enemies weapons as well, thinking this would just lead to a war of maybe a year or two and the whole matter would be settled. But actually it plunged the whole planet into 4 decades of war. So Jameson is thinking that Carnus is bringing him here to exact revenge on him for this. And Jameson really does want to go on this mission to correct the past as well. Well, the drug is causing him more and more pain, and Jameson can almost no longer continue at all. But after a failed rescue attempt of hostages that were on the planet, it turns out that Carnus is behind it and there are no terrorists at all, and Carnus is demanding that Jameson come down to the planet. So Jameson decides that, he will come down to the planet. It's better to risk himself than the entire crew. And at first Carnus doesn't really believe that this is Jameson because he looks like such a much younger man. But then Jameson shows him the scar on his arm that he received 45 years ago as basically the pact that he made with Carnus to promise that he would give him those weapons. So when he sees this, he's satisfied that it is Jameson, and instead of killing Jameson, Carnus decides that he's going to leave Jameson in agony as he dies. And that's what he does. Jameson dies on Mordan 4. And when this happens, Carnus's revenge is complete, and he decides that he will then release the hostages. And that is basically the end of the episode. Now, originally this was written as almost a male menopause type show by Michael McKellian, and he wrote a treatment and a first draft involving reverse aging, and D.C. Fontana had to edit that a little bit. And originally in the plot, Jameson actually survives the de-aging drug, but he is reduced to a 14-year-old, and he no longer remembers his wife. Another change that happened, there were actual terrorists involved in this episode, but in this one, Carnus is saying there are terrorists aboard or on the planet, but in reality it's just a ploy to get Jameson to come to this planet. Now, Clayton Rohner was cast as Admiral Mark Jameson, and he actually worked on weekends with the director Rob Bowman on the characterization of Jameson, which is interesting because one of the criticisms of this episode is the acting of Clayton Rohner. They didn't feel like he did a good job as an older man, that he was just kind of a grunting guy, and I don't know, a grunting ape, something like that. And then when he was a younger man, they didn't really like his acting job with that either. They also felt like he didn't really have much chemistry with the actress who played his wife either. They also had some trouble with the wheelchair in this episode. The episode actually cost $10,000 just for the chair alone, and they had so many problems with it. So that was kind of a bust, really. And Bowman, the director, actually criticized the style of the script because it was more of a sit-and-tell, talky type of episode, and there really wasn't as much action as they had hoped. So there is a lot of criticism with this episode. I personally don't feel it's as bad as people are making it out to be. The acting, granted, is not that great, and there was a lot of criticism about the makeup for Jameson. The Michael Westmore, who actually did the makeup, said this was because he just wasn't given a lot of time since it was a TV show. If it was a movie, he would have been able to do a little bit better. But it was just him and one other guy in the first season who was doing the makeup, so he did the best he could with it. Having said that, I think the actual idea for the script and the story actually was a very strong one. And I remember as a kid when I originally watched this, I didn't find it to be too bad, just as far as the acting or the makeup. Now that I'm older and looking back at it, it does look like it's a guy in makeup pretending to be an older guy. But I feel like that's a lot more minor of a point than people make it out to be. It was still a very well-written episode, to say the least. So that is my review of Too Short a Season. Stay tuned for the next episode later in the week. Thanks, guys.